Snow White and the Magic Mirror is definitely a creative film. I don't know if I'd say it's a good film. This is an animated short film from 1994. It's about half an hour. It's directed by Tony Love and written by Ken Koonce and Michael Merton. And we have a voice cast including Edie Mirman, Tony Pope, Susan Silo, and Doug Stone. Now, it is a kind of basic story of Snow White. We have the evil queen, jealous of Snow White, trying to get her killed. And they do have a bit of fun with that. It is actually, well, I think it's meant to be a comedy. There are definitely some light-hearted moments amid scenes that would be perhaps quite dark in other versions of Snow White. According to IMDb, the dwarfs are all parodies of famous comedians. I have no idea who they're meant to be. Maybe that's on me. I'm willing to admit that maybe that's my fault rather than them being bad parodies. But if anybody knows who they are meant to be parodying, please do let me know. But this is where I have an issue with that. Let's say they are parodying famous comedians and I'm just clueless at who they're meant to be. Young children watching it are not going to pick up on that. And I feel like a lot of the apparent humour is not necessarily going to appeal to young children. That's not to say that it's adult humour or anything, but I just feel like the target audience for this is unclear because it does feel more like a children's film, but at the same time, I feel like there's a lot that would go over the heads of children, and apparently over my head as well. So I don't really know who this is aimed at. I can't work out if it's meant to be for children or if it's meant to be for older viewers who like animation. And I feel like it's stuck somewhere in the middle. We do have references to other children's stories and classic stories. There's a brief Wizard of Oz mention and Goldilocks and the Three Bears, but they feel kind of out of place. They're few and far between, so that it's not a Snow White version with a lot of other pop culture references. It's literally just every now and then, to the point where it feels really random and really forced and kind of badly written. But on the plus side, the animation is really good. I think it's very well animated. Visually, it is quite pleasing. It's not the best animation style I've ever seen, but it is pretty decent, and I quite liked it. We have quite a bright, vivid colour palette. It's not too bad to look at. And if you're a fan of Snow White in general, then yeah, I'd say it's worth watching just because it is a little bit different. If you like Snow White and the dwarfs and the other characters, then this might be a fun way to enjoy the story in a new way. But if you're just looking for a good version of Snow White, this isn't it. If you're looking for a creative version, I mean, technically it is creative. It is very creative. It's very different. But it doesn't necessarily automatically mean that it's going to be an enjoyable watch. I feel like it had potential, but the narrative is a little all over the place. I mean, in general, it's a classic Snow White story, but there are things that happen, and as I said, references to other stories and things that just feel so out of place. And they either needed to try harder with that to make it more central so that it doesn't feel random when it happens, or remove it completely. And as I said, these dwarves are meant to be parodying comedic actors and comedians, and it means nothing to me. And I would assume it would mean nothing to young children. But the film is not, it's not enjoyable enough for an adult to be considered a film aimed at older viewers. So I don't know what to do with it. I don't know where to place it. I don't even know if I recommend it. If you're looking for a version of Snow White that's probably unlike any you've seen before, Snow White and the Magic Mirror may be worth checking out. But if you're just looking for an enjoyable version of Snow White, then I'd say this is not the one to go with.